My friends, I want to talk to every man and woman sitting here tonight who has been crying out to the Lord with a burden so heavy it seems to press the very breath from your lungs. You've prayed, you've pleaded, you've poured out your heart in the darkest hours, and what did you get back? Silence. A deafening, chilling silence that makes you question everything you thought you knew about faith. You stand there looking at your life, at the closed doors, the illness, the separation, and you whisper, "Lord, why? Why have you gone quiet?" That silence is the very place where the devil does his deadliest work, whispering, "He doesn't hear you. He doesn't care. You're forgotten." But I stand here tonight as Billy Graham to tell you that the silence is not his denial, and it is not his absence. It is his divine strategy, and the answer to why God has been silent is a truth that will absolutely shock you and fundamentally change the way you pray forever. The answer is this, my friends. He has been silent because he is preparing something for you that is so infinitely better than what you asked for, that your current request would have become a curse. You prayed for a small door to open, and he has been silent because he is building a massive, custom-made cathedral for your future, and he cannot let you rush into that tiny door. You prayed for the restoration of a broken thing, but he was silent because he saw that restoration would only lead you back to an old, limited place. He is not interested in merely restoring the past. He is interested in creating a radical new thing that stands as an undeniable testimony to his glory. Think of the 400 years of silence between the Old Testament and the New. God's voice went quiet, but he wasn't absent. He was aligning history, spreading the Greek language so the gospel could reach the world, and building the Roman road so his son's message could travel. In that silence, God was preparing the world for a delivery, Jesus Christ, so profound that every prayer that came before it was dwarfed by the reality of the incarnation. Your silence is your divine preparation. He is not speaking because he is building something deep within you. Endurance, faith that is refined like gold, and patience that will allow you to handle the massive blessing he is about to place in your hands. If he answered your small prayer today, you would miss the miraculous one he has prepared for tomorrow. So when the silence presses down on you, do not sink into despair. Lift your head and whisper, "I thank you, Lord, for the silence. I thank you that you are delaying my small request to deliver your massive, shocking answer." Hold on to your faith, because the day his voice breaks the silence, the miracle will speak louder than any words you could ever imagine. My friends, the single most crippling doubt that the enemy uses against a believing heart is the fear that God has stopped listening. You have cried out in your Gethsemane, and the only answer you've received is the echo of your own voice. You interpret this absence of sound as the absence of love or the absence of power. But I tell you this truth tonight, a truth that Billy Graham spent his life proclaiming: the silence is divine strategy. You must understand that God does not work under our schedule or our limited human perspective. When the heavens seem closed, he is not inactive. He is engaging in a deliberate sacred strategy that requires hiddenness, patience, and time. He often prepares his greatest blessings away from the noise, away from the opinions, and most importantly, away from your premature interference. Source 1.1. Think of the construction of a great cathedral. The architects and builders must spend months, even years, in silent subterranean work, digging the foundation, laying the massive stones far below the earth where no one can see them. If you walked by during that time, you would see no magnificent structure rising. You would only see a massive dark hole. The devil looks at your life during this silent season, sees the darkness and the digging, and says, "Look, nothing is happening, but the Lord is working unseen, making the foundation deep enough to support the glorious structure that is coming." The strategy of silence is necessary because God is not just planning a temporary fix. He is aligning opportunities and removing obstacles that you do not even know exist. Source 1.1, 1.4. He is fighting spiritual battles in the unseen realm, clearing the pathway for the answer to arrive, and dealing with every deceptive plot that would derail your future testimony. Source 1.5. Furthermore, the silence is a weapon against your own weakness. God is strategically forcing you to lean not on your feelings, not on your sight, but on your unwavering faith in His nature. Source 1.2. He is teaching you restraint over reaction and obedience over explanation. When you hold your peace and trust Him, you are creating the very space for His wisdom and power to work on your behalf, protecting you from mistakes you would make if you acted out of fear or impatience. Source 1.3. So when the silence descends, do not fear that you are forgotten. You are in the hands of a God who is working the most when He is speaking the least. The silence is the sign that the greatest work, the profound foundational work, is being done. Hold on to your faith, because what God is building in private will soon be revealed in a way that brings glory to Him and undeniable favor to you. My friends, let us press into the heart of this mystery of silence, focusing on the second great truth that sets our souls free: preparation for the greater. This is the answer that should stop every single worry in your heart, for it reveals that God's silence is an act of protective, powerful love. The trouble with our prayers is that they are so often limited by our human experience. You are standing in the midst of your struggle, and you pray for a small comfort. You ask for a candle when God is ready to give you the sun. You plead for the restoration of a tiny broken window pane, but He is silent because He is building a massive custom-made cathedral for your future, and He cannot let you rush into that tiny, fragile space. The silence is the necessary time required to prepare something for you that is infinitely better than what you asked for. This is a spiritual economy where God does not deal in pennies when He has untold riches ready to bestow. If He had given you that immediate small answer, that very thing would have become a distraction and a curse. It would have satisfied you at a low, temporary level and caused you to settle for less than the glory He intended for your life. Think of the child who cries for a rusty nail to play with, and the father who holds a beautifully crafted wooden toy behind his back stays silent. The child interprets the silence as cruelty, but the father knows the child would cut his hand on the nail and miss the true lasting joy of the toy. God is that Father. You are asking for the nail, and He is preparing the magnificent gift. This principle teaches us that God's delay is not rejection, it is divine investment. He is working behind the scenes to assemble the right circumstances, the right people, and the right timing for a deliverance so grand that it will leave no doubt in anyone's mind that it was the hand of God that intervened. He must wait for your soul to be ready to handle the magnitude of the blessing, and He must wait for the stage of your life to be set for the testimony that will follow. So when the silence seems to stretch, lift your heart. Do not look at the limitation of your small request, but look to the limitless, scandalous generosity of a God who is delaying the small answer only to deliver the massive, life-changing miracle. He is not just giving you back what you lost. He is preparing a radical new thing that will redefine your life and magnify His name. Trust the preparation and know that the silence is the sound of heaven assembling your greatest triumph. Let us now turn our focus to the third magnificent truth that must reshape our expectations: refusal to restore the past. This principle is essential because many of us pray to a God of restoration when we should be praying to a God of creation. We are stuck in the mindset of mending, but God is in the business of making all things new. When you suffer a loss, a broken marriage, a failed career, a health crisis, your natural, understandable prayer is, Lord, please give me back what I had. Restore the old comfort, the old relationship, the old health. But I tell you, Billy Graham taught us that God is rarely interested in simply patching up the old life. He is not a tailor who merely sews up the ripped garment. He is the master weaver who is preparing a radical new thing that is stronger, more beautiful, and perfectly designed for the new life you are called to live. The silence you are enduring is often the time when the Lord is allowing the broken thing to fully decay, because He knows that mere restoration would only lead you back to a place of limited potential and predictable weakness. If He were to simply mend the old foundation, it would never support the weight of the massive blessing He intends to place upon it. He allows the old to pass away so that the new, the stronger, and the eternal can take its place. This radical new thing is God's masterpiece, designed specifically to be an undeniable testimony to His glory. When the answer finally comes, it will be so transformative that the world cannot attribute it to your cleverness, your willpower, or a stroke of luck. They will look at the new life, the new joy, the new ministry that has sprung up from the ashes of your failure, and they will be forced to acknowledge the intervention of a mighty God. You are praying for the old house to be repaired. God is tearing down the shack to build you a mansion. You are praying for a small stream to be unblocked. God is preparing to flood your life with a mighty river. This process is often painful because we cling so tightly to the familiar, even when the familiar is flawed. But you must release the past, let go of the old desire for what was, and open your heart to the glorious potential of what will be. Trust His refusal to restore the past. Trust that His silence is the sound of Him clearing away the remnants of the old season to make room for the new. Do not let the memory of your loss blind you to the miracle of His future creation. Look forward with fervent expectation, knowing that the greatest chapter of your life is the one God is writing right now, entirely new and entirely for His glory. My friends, to truly grasp the monumental significance of the silence you are facing, we must look at the biggest, most undeniable example in the history of our faith. This brings us to the fourth profound truth: historical precedent. Your small personal silence is a mirror of God's great, world-changing silence. I want you to think about the 400 years that stretched between the prophet Malachi and the announcement by the angel Gabriel to Mary. 4 long centuries where the prophetic voice of God went silent. The scriptures stopped. The people felt forgotten, abandoned, left to the mercy of Roman legions and crushing cynicism. It seemed as though God had walked away from the covenant, that the promise had failed, and that all hope was lost. But Billy Graham taught us that the greatest, most consequential work is often done in the most profound silence. Was God absent during those 400 years? No. He was silently aligning history and building the infrastructure for the greatest delivery ever conceived, the coming of His Son, Jesus Christ. In that silence, God was not sleeping. He was spreading the Greek language across the known world so that when the gospel finally came, it could be written down and understood by all nations. He was allowing the Roman Empire to build the famous roads so that the disciples could run from Jerusalem to the ends of the earth with the good news. He was perfectly timing the moment of Christ's birth for the fullness of time, the precise moment when the world was ready to receive Him. Your personal silence is the same strategy. You look at the 2 months or 2 years you have been waiting and you fret. But God is silently aligning the circumstances of your breakthrough. He is not just preparing the answer, He is preparing the path, clearing the spiritual and practical roadblocks that would prevent your blessing from reaching you, and making sure that when the answer arrives, it is positioned for maximum global impact. Do not look at the silence and see absence. Look at the silence and see preparation for a delivery so massive that it requires the perfect orchestration of history. Trust the historical precedent. The same God who prepared the world in 400 years of silence is perfectly capable of preparing your life in this season of waiting. Hold fast, because the delivery that is coming will be foundational, life-altering, and worth every moment of the stillness. My friends, let us examine the fifth truth, one that is often the most painful, but ultimately the most rewarding: building inner strength. This silence is not about what God is doing out there in the world, but what He is doing inside you. a necessary work of divine preparation that is building a vessel strong enough to hold the massive blessing He intends to pour out. We human beings pray for the miracle, but we forget to pray for the strength to steward that miracle. If God were to drop a massive blessing, a powerful ministry, incredible wealth, or a globally impactful calling into the hands of a person whose faith was still fragile, whose character was still brittle, and whose patience was non-existent, that blessing would not be a gift. It would be a sudden, catastrophic curse. The individual would be unable to manage the pressure, the temptation, and the visibility that comes with a large anointing. Therefore, the silence is the time of spiritual construction. God is building deep within you the three non-negotiable qualities necessary for every major victory: endurance, refined faith, and patience. He is using the pressure of the unanswered prayer to forge endurance, forcing you to keep praying, keep serving, and keep believing even when there is no visible evidence. This trains you to be a faithful soldier who does not desert the post just because the night is long. He is using the fire of doubt to create refined faith, burning away the dross of superficial belief so that what remains is a trust that rests solely on the unchanging character of the Almighty, not on fleeting circumstances. And He is using the waiting period to build patience, which is the spiritual capacity to maintain peace and wisdom when everyone else is panicking. As Billy Graham taught us, the greatest miracles of God often require the greatest internal strength to receive and steward. You are praying for the magnificent structure, and God is making sure your foundation, your soul, is deep enough and wide enough to support the weight of that glory. Do not resent the silence. Embrace it as the divine training period. The true miracle is not the external gift you will receive. The true miracle is the magnificent person you are becoming while you wait. Hold on, knowing that God is not just preparing the blessing, He is preparing you to receive it, manage it, and multiply it for His glory. Your strength is being built now so that your testimony can endure forever. My friends, let us conclude with the final thrilling truth that should ignite every heart with expectant faith: trading small for miraculous. This is the ultimate reassurance that your season of silence is not a waste of time. It is a divine upgrade in the plan for your life, where God is deliberately delaying the small answer to deliver a large, shocking miracle. You see, when we are in pain, we pray with a sense of emergency. We ask God to simply stop the pain, to give us a quick fix, to move the immediate roadblock. But God, whose vision spans eternity, sees that quick fix as a missed opportunity. He sees that if He were to give you that small, immediate answer, the resulting testimony would be weak. It would be a whisper that the world could easily explain away as luck or coincidence. The silence is the sound of God pushing pause on your small, urgent request because He is preparing a large, shocking miracle that will be so undeniable, so perfectly timed, and so far beyond the realm of human possibility that when it arrives, it will speak louder than any words you could ever imagine. Billy Graham spent his life calling people to a God who specialized in the impossible, the miraculous that defies logic. That is the God who is operating in your silence. He is not interested in merely giving you $50 to pay one overdue bill. He is preparing a financial breakthrough that will allow you to fund a mission or start a foundation. He is not just giving you back a tepid friendship. He is preparing to establish a profound connection that will propel you into your destiny. He is trading your little cup of water for an overflowing ocean of blessing. The reason for the delay is to allow the circumstances to become so impossible that the only logical conclusion when the answer arrives is it had to be God. He allows the illness to look terminal, the finances to look catastrophic, and the door to look permanently sealed, because the greater the depth of the darkness, the more brilliant the light of His miracle will be when it shines through. So when you feel the urge to despair, remind your soul, my God is delaying the small because He is working on the great. You are not waiting for a repair job. You are waiting for a divine creation. Hold fast to your faith. knowing that the greatest manifestation of God's love is often his refusal to settle for less than the miraculous on your behalf. Prepare your heart not for a whisper, but for the shout of God's massive, overwhelming answer.